Frage. My Uncle Frage is saying his goodbye to my Aunt Elaine. Okay? My Uncle Frage saying goodbye to my Aunt Elaine. These two people here, this is my Uncle Frage who was just saying goodbye to his sister a month ago, and this is my Aunt Elaine. And by the way, Uncle Frage is an engineer, and Aunt Elaine is a principal of a school. So who are the people killed in Gaza? Are these people terrorists? And I want to share with you also that I have another aunt that is still suffering. Her name is Najwa. She was sitting next to my aunt who was killed October 18th with another 17 people from the church, and now of course the number raised to about 25 killed. And Najwa was hit on her hip. She had to do hip replacement, and she was not a priority. Back then, there was access to hospitals, but she was not a priority. She did a surgery, hip replacement with no anesthesia, and she's still on a wheelchair. And I tell you, this is a story of my family, my aunt, my uncle. And I want to add to this, it's actually unfortunate that my daughter is in Montana. Why do I say it's unfortunate? When she applied for a program, it's called Peace Program, Youth Program, Exchange Program, she's a 9th grader going into 10th grader. So I thought it was a good opportunity for her to be in America, to just enjoy, you know how, these young generation think that, America is the land of honey and milk. And which I disagree, of course, at the moment. And so she went to a place out of nowhere in Montana called Ricci. Ricci has a community of only 186 people live in Ricci. Her high school has only 25 students. And what she faced in this little community, where she was accused of being a liar. When she said this is happening in Gaza, they said every single picture is photoshopped. When she was living in Ricci, saying my mom's family is in Gaza, my teta, we call it in Arabic, which my grandma actually lived in Gaza, they made fun of her. And later on, even one of her teachers went to the students and said, there is a student, I'm not mentioning names, but she's spreading false information about Israel. And she is a Hamas fan. A week later, my family got killed. And I had to inform the family because it has been hard to tell her the news. And that was the time when they had to actually face reality that it is not an imaginary situation, it is family. Same thing, I'm sorry it might be long for you guys, but same thing that happened to us as a delegation, and Dr. Yusuf Al-Khouri was with me in the Vatican. We went to the Vatican, and the Pope himself, Pope Francis, said that what happened in Gaza, and he had tears, is genocide. When we stood in front of the press, I want to share this with you because you will see how the Palestinians are treated. Even if you see it in your own eyes, you're still being called a liar. The press conference started after we did visit the Pope Francis, and I was to speak on behalf of the delegation. And I said, Pope Francis was so sympathetic to the situation. He calls the parish pastor every day. He checks on the people of Gaza. I acknowledge that, we all acknowledge that, and then we wept because the people that were in the delegation, they all had family members. They all had family members who were killed. And he said, this is genocide. He wept, and again he said, it's genocide. When I shared that at the press conference, you cannot imagine the chaos and the loudness of the press, where they said, no, there is no way that this has been said. You must not be telling the truth. They actually, while the press conference was on, they contacted the Vatican press. And they even lied about it, saying, the last statement was, we are not sure, but we don't think that Pope Francis said so. In front of over 70 press. all the delegation that came along were mad. Some of them started screaming, "Are we all deaf? Is he telling us we're liars? What is really happening there?" And I stood and I said, let's be quiet. And I said, if you're asking us as Palestinians if Pope Francis said it's a genocide or not, yes, he did say it's genocide. But if the definition of genocide to you is different than the definition we know, then it's your problem. And that was the end. And 2 weeks later, he came in front, and this is how truth should be said. At the square, at the Vatican, Pope Francis stood and said, what's happening in Gaza is genocide. And the reason why, because 2 of his parish ladies, a mom and her daughter, were actually killed by a sniper. So you cannot hide the truth. Even if you try your best, people will know about it. I'm sorry it took longer than I thought. According to the case presented by South Africa,